The snow had been falling since lunch, soft enough to seem harmless, steady enough to turn the whole world quiet. It smothered the street in a pale hush, muffling the sound of Andy's footsteps as he walked home. Every few steps he breathed into the wool of his scarf and watched the warmth bloom against the cold before vanishing. Andy wasn't in any rush. He liked this silence. There was a strange kind of magic to walking home in weather like this, when the sky felt low enough to touch and there was no one else around. The school far behind him, his house was 3 streets over. He knew the route well, past the leaning lamp post, then down to the corner where snow drifted high against an old fence. As he walked he saw a woman standing perfectly still on the opposite corner. She wore a black dress, the kind you might see at a funeral, with a coat draped neatly over her shoulders, a black veil partially obscuring her face. The snow clung to her sleeves and hair, but she made no move to brush it away. Her skin pale, the color of the sky as the light begins to fade, and she was smiling not in a warm, friendly way, but in the way framed portraits smile, fixed in place long after its purpose had rotted away. She was humming low and slow, almost the same note over and over, with only the smallest shift to carry it forward. It didn't sound like any song he knew from the radio or school. Andy slowed his steps, the sound pressing into his chest with a heaviness like snow settling on a branch. He turned the corner toward his home. When he glanced back, she was gone. That evening, while he sat on the living room floor, Chester the family dog lay nearby, watching some news piece on the TV, something about road closures, but Andy wasn't listening. His father, Peter, sat at the dinner table behind him, leafing through a stack of unopened junk mail. The melody slipped out of him without thought. In the kitchen his mother's knife paused over the chopping board. "What song is that?" she called. "I don't know," he said, still humming under his breath. Later that night the lights were off and the house was quiet. The tune returned again, this time in his sleep. He didn't notice at first. Dreams blurred together, snow up to his waist, shapes in the distance, the cold dragging at his coat, much like his walk home from school that day. But somewhere in the dream he realized the humming wasn't coming from far away. It was coming from his own mouth. When he woke, moonlight had turned his bedroom pale silver. The sound was still there, soft and steady. Chester stood in the doorway to his bedroom, ears flattened, tail stiff. He would not come closer. The next morning his mother pushed the bedroom door open with a soft knock. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said. Andy mumbled something into his pillow. She crossed to the window, tugging the curtains aside to let in the pale morning light. She froze from the corner where the leaning lamp-post stood. Across the blank white crust of snow, a trail of dark wet impressions wound their way from the street straight to his bedroom window. The prints were sharp-edged, deep enough to catch shadow. By midweek the snow had crept up past the bottoms of the classroom windows. Each morning Mrs. Clark found herself brushing ice from the window latch before she could let in a little air. The air inside was stale from radiator heat and damp gloves, the smell of pencil shavings that never quite went away. Hito Hezra Sati Stein Children of the Mountain stem. By hand the snow beneath the window was marked with a line of footprints that hadn't been there moments ago. They led straight to the glass, stopping so close she could imagine the breath of whoever had stood there. By the time the sky began to darken, Andy still wasn't home. Snow lay deep in the garden, clean and done by Vader portrait. Then a titan of snow, a figure emerged, slender, dressed in black, a small veil drawn across her face. She smiled, the same patient. Her gloved hand rose slightly, gloved fingers curling in a gesture that could only mean follow. Peter's feet obeyed before his mind did. He trailed her through the deepening snow until the town was gone behind him, his breath rasped inside the scarf, the hum in his chest sinking with hers. They came to a large clearing where the snow lay untouched. Standing there was Andy, his thin frame, crooked hair dusted white with frost. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared through his father at something in the distance, lips shaping the slow, unbroken tune. Peter stepped forward and took his son's hand. His skin was cold, but the boy's grip tightened. Almost without willing it, he hummed back, the sound joining his son's. The air seemed to thicken. The snow beneath them trembled. A low vibration traveled through his boots up into his bones. From the edge of the whiteout, dark shapes began to appear, figures in black, scattered along the road, each one perfectly still, each smiling that faint, fixed smile, and each one humming the same unyielding melody. The snow grew thicker, drifting down in heavy, wet flakes that clung to the trees. Through the haze the shapes became clear, one standing before every house on the street. Motionless like a procession dressed in black, veils hung still, faces ashen beneath the gauze. Each wore the same faint, unchanging smile. The sound rose, many voices threading together into something low and endless, a sound that seemed to sink into the bones of the houses themselves. The ground gave a faint tremor as though the earth was listening. Snow piled higher, the figures blurred at the edges until they were nothing but shadows in the white. The humming never stopped.
Peter opened his mouth to call for Andy, but no words came, only the tune.